Alrighty, so no makeup today. I am just giving you me. But I was doing a video on Instagram and I was like, I really need to make this a YouTube video. One, because I've been terrible at keeping up with my YouTube videos and I want to start off by apologizing. So if you love my videos about mortgage related things, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe, and we'll keep this thing going. So it's hump day and I have just been quiet because I've had so much to say. I don't want to get canceled. But whenever the market changes, there's like so many different things that come about. You see so many shady behavior, so much, so many negative things that it just kind of puts you in a place where let me just hold my head down and work until all of this blows over and we're on to the next crazy thing in the mortgage industry. So some of the things that let me tell you about this one specific situation. I don't expect for buyers, real estate agents to be mortgage specialists because it takes a lot to know what's going on. But I had someone who came to me before and they were trying to purchase a new home, purchase a secondary residence, and they told me that they were in the process of refinancing their home. And I said, well, do you want me to take a look to see what we can do as far as on the refinance end, since I've already pulled your credit? And they said, well, they're giving me a rate of 2.5%. Now this is probably like a month ago where rates were increasing. Well, they were increasing before that, but those low 2 rates, that was when rates were historically low, which was primarily last year for the most part. You can get a 2% interest rate really easily. Today, not so much. Not so much. So when he told me 2.5%, I was like, well, I know I can't give that to you over here unless you're wanting to pay for it. So if you're already in process with them, keep me updated, send me the closing disclosure once everything is finished, and then we can go from there. Because his DTI was too high based on his current situation. So I was like, okay, well, just send it to me if they're giving you a lower rate. He couldn't tell me what his new payment was, which is something that I asked. I was like, okay, well, what is your new mortgage payment gonna be? And he was like, well, I don't know, but the rate is lower. I was like, well, what is your current rate? Okay, his current rate was, he said, around 4%. So I was like, okay, so keep me updated. So today or yesterday rolls around, he's like, yeah, I just wanted to see if we can revisit the purchase because we're about to close on our refinance. And I was like, okay, well, send me the closing disclosure and I'll take a look. And he sent it to me. So I'm looking, I'm just like, okay, this mortgage payment looks kind of high. Like, I don't see a reduction. So let me pull up his previous credit report to see what his mortgage was, because I'm a little confused. Like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, did he do a cash out refinance? Like, is he getting money back? Like, why does this number look higher? So I pull it up. His mortgage initially on his credit report was $1,700 and something, around that. So the current CD has a mortgage payment of $18,000. Now I see this 2.5% interest rate, and I'm just like, okay, let me see if he got cash out and he didn't tell me. Scroll, he's not getting cash back. I noticed that, okay, they included his closing costs in the mortgage, so that of course increased the loan balance, and he's taking like $16 to closing. So I'm just like, so it's not a cash out refinance. Like, let me see if he shortened the term. Maybe, he wanted a 15-year mortgage. Maybe that's why the mortgage is higher. And I'm just like, and maybe that's why he got the 2% interest rate, 2.5% interest rate. So I go up, I'm like, no, it's a 30-year mortgage. Okay, well, did he pay for his interest rate? Did he buy down his rate? Which he probably doesn't even know that he did. Let me take a look at that. Okay, yeah, he bought down his rate, which that basically means a lot of times when you all are like, oh yeah, well, I'm rate shopping and this person is giving me this rate and what rate can you give me? So we can give you any rate. any rate you want, because there's, let's say, a free rate that you're not charged, or maybe there's a rate where you can get a little bit towards your closing, but there are also ways that you can get a lower rate by paying more in closing costs. That's buying down your rate. So when you go to a mortgage loan officer and they're like, well, what rate are you currently getting? And you're like, oh, well, this company is giving me blah, 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 blah. And the lender is like, oh, well, we can give you this. It's like they're always going to give you a better or more competitive rate. So rate shopping to me is dumb. It's the dumbest thing ever. And so a lot of times when people come to me and say they're rate shopping, I'm just like, why? Or I'll ask additional questions like, oh, well, what program, are you pre-approved with? Like, is it conventional? Is it FHA? Because that is going to also have determining factors in your interest rate. Like, if you're rate shopping, this person gives you a conventional rate, then you come to me, I give you an FHA rate. That's not a good comparison. Or, did this person, are they charging you for your rate? Like, you don't know anything. You're just like, you just want the rate number. You don't know what it costs. You don't know. You're not going to look at like a loan estimate and see, because you don't know what to look at, that you're buying down your rate. So whenever there's a lot of uneducated people, and it's not uneducated, I'm sorry, scratch that. Boom. There's a lot of people who aren't experienced in purchasing a home or getting mortgages, and the first thing that they think of is, oh yeah, I'm trying to rate shop. And I just feel like that should be for I don't know, but it just doesn't make sense to me. And another reason that it doesn't make sense is if you're rate shopping on a purchase, rates change every day. They're not going to lock your rate most of the time, 99% of the time, until you're under contract. So especially in this market, if it's taking you a month or 3 months or however long, this rate that you received is an estimate based on today's market. So rate shopping doesn't make sense, because your rate could change the next day, so you're not locked into that rate that's on your pre-approval letter. Or sometimes people, they're rate shopping and they send their pre-approval letter, the interest rate isn't even on the pre-approval letter, because you're not locked or tied to that rate. It's just a number essentially. So again, rate shopping really doesn't make sense to me, because another reason is that when you're getting an interest rate, there are so many different factors that come into that interest rate, like your DTI, your cash reserves, like your credit, all of these different things. So if you received a pre-approval for, let's say, a $300,000 house on a $200,000 house, maybe your rate might be different, because you're not going to get the number most of the time that we give you. So once you go under contract, we are going to, plug in those numbers, your actual sales price, get information based on that home that you've decided to get. And it could just change. It changes. Things change every day, B. So anyway, back to this story. So I'm looking just through the closing disclosure, and I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. Especially if your goal was to reduce your mortgage payment. And I told you to send me your closing disclosure because you're in a DTI issue. So these are conversations that we've had, and I'm just trying to figure out why you're closing on a rate term refinance if your closing disclosure has a higher mortgage payment than the payment that's on your credit report, but your interest rate is 2% lower. Anyway, after reviewing it, reading it, and almost like bawling up and crying because I'm tired of watching people make bad financial decisions just because they're closing on a mortgage, build a bridge and get over it. I was like, okay, let me call him. And so I call him, asking him different questions, letting him know what I've seen based on reviewing it. And he's like, yeah, I thought that was crazy too, So I called them and they told me that my mortgage payment is going to be lower. So I said, well, did they send you anything detailing that? Like they just told you? And he's like, well, they explained it to me. I just can't remember specifically what they said. And then I had to tell him that pretty much this is not a good deal. This is not a good financial decision. So if you want to send me the actual amount that they sent, or if you decide to close on this, and it's still not what you want at closing, all refinances have a 3-day right to rescind. So that means we can't cheer about refinances closing until after closing. The buyer has 3 days to wake up and say, you know what, I'm not going to do this. So I let them know about that time frame, because again, you received your closing disclosure 3 days prior to closing and it's a hot mess. So now you still want to go to the closing table to see what happens. Roll the dice and we'll go from there. And I'm just like, okay. And okay. So that's one situation. Then I was talking about another situation on my Instagram that recently happened. And it's funny, my sister, shout out to sis, she's in the mortgage industry too, she was telling me, she was like, you keep going on rants on your Instagram and you need to bring them over to YouTube so you can get views. But it's easier for me to just pull up my phone than to pull out the camera, find the mic, get the lighting, put on makeup. I didn't put on makeup today. But you know, I feel like for YouTube, you have to like be ready for YouTube. But sometimes I guess I'm just gonna have to pull out the camera and y'all are gonna see me like this. I guess. Another situation that happened, I've had several. So when I tell you I've not made a video because I'm just like, gosh, when is this gonna be over? Like, there's so many things that I could talk about. Another situation is, a lot of times people come to me saying, hey, I was pre-approved by another lender, so I wanted to see if you can help. I'd much rather work with you for whatever reason. So, you know, whatever. I'm like, okay, cool, let me see. And there have been several situations where people have been pre-approved before, and as I'm, you know, evaluating their application and their documents, I'm just like, how? Like, this isn't gonna work. So, but that wasn't the case with this person. I didn't even review, we didn't get to the application, because I always have certain questions that I ask every new client that I'm working with. And I was asking her some questions, and she was like, well, you know, do you have to run my credit again? And I said, yeah, I will have to run your credit again, but you know, I let her know, as long as your credit is being pulled for mortgages, it looks to the credit bureaus as though you're shopping for a mortgage if you do it within a certain time period, which you all can Google. But as long as you're not applying for a credit card, an auto loan, a mortgage application, you know, all this stuff within 30 days, different things, that's going to negatively impact your credit. But as far as shopping for a mortgage, you can shop around for a mortgage. So you don't have to think that, oh, you know, this lender pulled my credit, I have to go with them, or I'm totally going to mess up your credit or mess up my credit. But if you make a late payment, yeah, that's going to mess up your credit, you know. But as far as inquiries, I try to not make people be too stressed about inquiries on their credit report when they're trying to obtain a mortgage, because you want to do what's best for you. This is the largest financial decision you'll ever make, so you want to make sure that you're going with a lender that you're happy with, someone that you trust, and who's going to give you the best program for you. So anyway, talking to her, and she's like, well, I don't want my credit to get pulled again because I just took out a loan for whatever reason. So I'm like, well, you know, if you did a loan after your pre-approval, that will change your pre-approval. So whether you decide to go with me or stay with your lender, you still want to inform your lender about that new loan prior to putting in an offer, because you don't want your loan to fall apart, especially if, you know, in your situation, you already were, you know, close to your DTI limit. Your concerns was your DTI. So you telling me that you have applied for a loan, you definitely either want me to take a look at your credit situation and give a new pre-approval, or let your current loan officer know so they can go ahead and make those changes. Because once we get your loan submitted, anything that happens on your credit, whether you apply for an auto loan, SBA loan, I done had an SBA loan, whatever, if you apply for a credit card, anything, like, the underwriter is going to get updates about any new credit accounts, credit balances, and they're gonna make amendments to your DTI accordingly. So she's like, well, that don't make sense because I already got my pre-approval letter. So basically, pause. I hear that a lot, like I'm sorry. Because it just drives me crazy. Like, a lot of people, when they're going through the mortgage process, it's like you all try to be sneaky little devils, and you do certain things, and then you'll be like, well, how did y'all know? I didn't know you can find that out. I didn't know you did this. And it's just like, if you breathe, we're gonna know. Like, it's a mortgage. During the mortgage process, they're crossing their T's, dotting their I's, and making sure that they can give you these hundreds of thousands of dollars towards your home purchase, and that you are going to pay it back either, you know, with the agreed term, or that you're going to pay it back until you sell, and somebody else is obligated to that. So I just don't know why you all think that you can get away with certain things because this is a mortgage, but again, you might not know. I was letting her know, again, if you applied for a new loan for whatever situation, maybe it's an emergency, which I guess she needed the money, we both are gonna know. I'm gonna know, your other loan officer is gonna know, and it's better to be upfront, transparent, because if we make some calculations based on this amount that you stated, then we can help you set up your loan so that way it doesn't fall apart when it gets to the underwriter. But a lot of you are like laugh now and cry later, where it's like, you know, I'm just gonna do whatever I want to do, and then if they catch me. So you're saying you're a first-time home buyer, and if they find out that I signed a deed, you know, blah 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 blah, don't ask, don't tell. But then if the underwriter's like, this is not a first-time home buyer, you might have not purchased and got a loan, but you're on a deed of a property, like, you know, all of those type of things. But this whole don't ask, don't tell, it just doesn't work in the mortgage industry. Anyway, of course I was very nice to her. I didn't like go off on her like that, but I was just like I said, you just want to make sure that you either inform your lender, your current loan officer, if you want to, you know, stay with them, and also you want to make sure that you don't apply for anything else. When you're getting a mortgage, your pre-approval, if your income changes, if your debts change, all of those things are reasons that can, you know, change your loan. While in every situation it may not make your loan fall apart, but if your loan is submitted to underwriting and something comes back, the underwriter is going to send it back to the loan officer and be like, hey, we can't do this loan as is, fix it. If we can't rework calculations or, you know, change the program to make sure that your loan goes through, then that's how your loan falls apart, because no one is going to help the loan officer. It's up to us to be like, hey, we found this out, fix it. That's just one of the instances, and I have so many where people just do whatever they want to do. Or maybe it's a situation where you were pre-approved by another lender and now you're coming to me for a pre-approval, so I send you this checklist of documents, you know, details on a typical mortgage process, all of that nice information, and then you just complete an application and you're like, hey, can I get an update? I'm like, I need documents. And you're like, well, I got my pre-approval letter last time. Do you need all the documents? I didn't have to send any documents before. And it's just like, I want you all to understand that some people play loans, some loan officers, or some people don't have your best interest. So as far as whenever doing an application, the more pre-approvals you get out there, then the more likelihood that some are going to come back. Some people don't care if they all don't come back. That's why a lot of agents are like, well, yeah, they didn't tell me why they didn't qualify. Or buyers are like, they didn't tell me why they didn't qualify. It's a numbers game. If I'm sending out pre-approvals and you're looking, hey, this is what you told me, this is what you told me you made, this is what you this, that's not a pre-approval, it's pre-qualification, but it might work. I might get paid from it. So some people think like that. Whereas me, if I'm focusing on my reputation and I don't want to send you out and have your loan fall apart, I'm not going to give you a pre-approval letter if I don't see your documents. Or if I see a red flag, I'm not going to give you a pre-approval letter. Or if I see that you don't have the money to close in your account, then we're going to have conversations like, well, where's the money going to come from? Are you getting a gift? Are you this and that? Because if I give you a pre-approval letter and you only have $600 in your account, you're pre-approved for $300, yeah, you have the income and the credit to do that, but where's your down payment coming from? Where's your closing costs coming from? If I just send you out with a pre-approval letter and you don't have the money needed for closing, you go under contract tomorrow and I'm like, okay, where's the money coming from? You're like, I'm working on it. That I'm working on it is not going to help, because now this seller has took their house off of the market and we're trying to figure out if you're going to come up with the money for closing. That's not how that works. People just do whatever they want to do. I know that I'm young, so sometimes it might sound better like, oh, I can talk to her about a mortgage. Like, I have a lot of people who come to me, ask me questions, have me this, but I'm gonna go with the person that looks like this because it sounds better coming from them, or I feel like I just want to make sure it's done right. I just want to make sure. That's a whole nother video. One day we will do a video addressing, do I want to say sexism, racism, and ageism in the mortgage industry, because it's not the same in real estate. Like, I'm literally in this Facebook group and they will literally be tagging men, and it's a real estate group dedicated towards black women. So do you not feel like black women can be loan officers? Like, if we're here to support and uplift women, why are y'all tagging like other types of lenders? You don't have to tag me, I don't care, but it's just certain things that I see. People feel like just because they're old, just because they're a man, or just because they're an old man, it just sounds better because they're like, oh yeah, sir, we can do that. They're on the golf course, they don't care. Like I said, it's a numbers game. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Most of the time when I talk to them, it's like they don't do hard deals. If it don't work, on to the next. Keep it moving. That's the motto. Keep it moving. I just don't understand why. And then it's like, most of the time with loan officers, you all, when you go to closing, you tag your you tag your real estate agent, and you haven't built any relationship with your loan officer. You don't tag the loan officer, but they are the ones who just set up and structured something that you're going to be paying for 30 years if you stay there, or for 5 years if you're going to, buy and sell, or for however long. You're not asking them questions. You're just like, I don't know, focusing on getting the deal done, which is the most part what a lot of people care about. Like, I don't care how I got the rate. I don't care what I'm paying for. I don't know how to compare my mortgage payment, so this is just what it is. But when you have someone who is an educated buyer, it's a different story. An educated buyer will be like, hey, I noticed this charge, or da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, don't just call out charges on a closing disclosure, but if you really know, then you can look and see like, hey, why am I paying for my interest rate? You didn't tell me that. We didn't discuss me buying down my rate. Or let's say if somebody doesn't have enough money to close, they don't know to have those conversations like, hey, if I take a little higher rate, how much would I be able to get in closing costs? Like, those are conversations that you can have with your loan officer, but you don't know to have those conversations. So people just do whatever they need to do to get the deal done on both sides. And then you might be in a situation like this that doesn't make any sense to me and won't make any sense, where you are refinancing, doing a rate term refinance, and your mortgage, you're doing a rate term refinance and your mortgage payment currently is higher. It's so sad. Your mortgage payment currently, or your new mortgage payment, is going to be higher than your old mortgage payment, but you got a lower rate, which you're happy about because rates are historically low and you were late to the party. So you got that rate though. I just don't understand. So I won't understand. And my NMLS number is older than a lot of you loan officers out there. So I'm older than you in mortgage years, regardless of how young I look. And I will just continue to sit back and watch the show, because can I help everybody? No. Does everybody want me to help them? No. But will I help you if you allow me to? Yes. And if you don't listen, I never hold grudges. People do whatever they want to do. If you ask me for advice and you decide to go to someone else because whatever reason, I don't hold grudges, because at this point I understand it is what it is. This is it's kind of long. I mean, whatever. So kind of a long video, but I just had to get that out, and hopefully I educated somebody along the way. So this is your Chic Mortgage Millennial coming to you with another video about some mortgage related things. If you have some things that you want me to talk about, drop it in the comments and I'll take a look at them. Also, I have a lot of loan officers who reach out to me about mortgage advice, mortgage training outside of these videos. I have a couple of ideas for what I want to do to help loan officers just able to navigate through situations and increase their business. So stay tuned. I'm working on some things that way I can help us all get over that hump, because becoming a loan officer, there is a learning hump, and a lot of people who are experienced, they don't want to take the time out to teach the youngins. Stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe. Have a good day.